Lucy Lou, with my girl Drew, Cameron D and Destiny, Charlie's Angels, come on.
The women's suffrage movement has been present in the United States since as early as 1848, when the first Women's Rights Convention was held in Seneca Falls. The Declaration of Sentiments was adopted by the convention to protect women's homes and families. After the Civil War, during the era of Reconstruction, women were becoming more and more aware of their rights, especially their voting rights. At the forefront was Susan B. Anthony and Elizabeth Stanton, who formed the National Women's Suffrage Association. Women wanted to be treated equally and have the same rights as men, and would stop at nothing to obtain these rights. Anthony and Stanton drafted an amendment in 1878, which would later turn into the 19th Amendment, calling for a woman's right to vote. They opposed the 15th Amendment due to the exclusion of a woman's right to vote. Other active advocates for women's suffrage include Frances Wright, Lucretia Mott, and Margaret Fuller. On the other hand, men and women advocated against women's suffrage, and an opposing organization formed, the National Organization Against Women's Suffrage. Men were typically a part of this organization in fear that women would vote for the prohibition of alcohol. In 1920, 40 years after the drafting, the 19th Amendment was ratified to the Constitution, prohibiting any U.S. citizen from being denied the right to vote on the basis of sex. The last individual state to ratify the amendment was Mississippi in 1984, 64 years after the national ratification. The right to vote has given women a say in the U.S. government and legislation, where they now hold positions. Women's suffrage pushed gender neutrality in the U.S.
Question, tell me how you feel about this. Try to control me, boy, you get this.
Margaret Sanger popularized the term birth control. She also opened the first birth control clinic in the USA in 1916, which launched Planned Parenthood. She was put in jail shortly after for distributing the diaphragm, a type of contraceptive. Her conviction was appealed, and there was a law made that doctors could prescribe contraceptives, but not nurses. The pill was approved and introduced in America in 1957. Betty Friedan was one of the first people to see abortion as a right, not a privilege. She states in her book, It Changed My Life, that the right of woman to control her reproductive process must be established as a basic, inalienable civil right, not to be denied or abridged by the state. What right has any man to say to any woman, you must bear this child? What right has any state to say? This is a woman's right, not a technical question needing the sanction of the state, or to be debated in terms of technicalities. They are all irrelevant. This question can only be confronted in terms of the basic personhood and dignity of woman, which is violated forever if she does not have the right to control her own reproductive process. This is the only way that abortion is worth talking about. We are going to demand it and see what happens. In 1972, the U.S. Congress passed Title IX as a portion of the Education Amendments of 1972. Title IX declares, "No person in the United States shall, on the basis of sex, be excluded from participation in, be denied the benefits of, or be subjected to discrimination under any education program or activity receiving federal financial assistance." Title IX applies to all aspects of a school's education system. However, the most well-known impact of Title IX is its breaking down of barriers in sports for women and girls.
Huge for me because it was one of the first years. I was a junior high kid in '74, so that's when I first started playing like organized sports. It was like 8th grade. We actually had teams and we competed against other junior highs. So before that, it was like, okay, let's have a play day and you play these guys and you play these guys, and then so the guys got to travel and the girls never did. So I was one of the first groups to actually benefit from Title IX. So they had to make everything equal. Because before it was like, oh, here's the boys' gym and here's the little girls' gym. Really, how fair is that? You know, you want equality for all, and if we are equality for all, then you have to provide those opportunities and make people accountable for. So the law made people accountable for that. So it was great. And then I went on to play in high school sports, and then college, I got a college scholarship because of sports, so that helped pay my way through school. And then here at the high school, I was coach for 20 years. I referee, and I still do that, so sports has impacted my life in huge ways. So many benefits. You could ask the same question for guys too. It's the same answer. It's empowering. It's great. Gives you confidence. Gets you in shape. There's so many benefits to when I played individual sports and team sports that still, go on in my life. So how to learn a team, how to win and to lose, how to master a skill or not. So those are just a couple things. Yes, I have. Yes, I have. And I try not to. How can I say this? As a female referee, we're this much percent of all the referees out there. Mostly it's guys. So I always work in a group of men all the time. So you kind of learn to do the guy talk. But, I've been denied opportunities because I'm a woman, because we'll let the guys ref that. Or comments made like, why is a woman on our game? Like, why not? And then when they see how I perform, like, oh, okay. But women always have to prove up and beyond every time I'm out there. It's like I'm always proving myself. And so I just do a kick butt job at it, and then just like, oh, I guess you can do it. But they never question a guy. So guys always get that benefit, like, well, he's a guy, he must know how to do it. Really? And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, if he doesn't know how, there's nothing wrong with that. But, give kudos to women who work hard to do that same job. Like good mentors when I was growing up, I think I remember this vividly in junior high, like the Billie Jean King, Bobby Riggs tennis match. And since that time, I've actually got to meet Billie Jean King and talk to her about it. And she is a champion of women's sports. Like, even, like, she's 60s, late, going to her 70s. She is just, like, still a lot of fire and just like a big women's pro athlete and just activity and stuff like that. So that was like one of the biggest moments that was like, look, we could do this. And then it just started to escalate. And so then I was always trying to find, because I was able to give them those opportunities. Then, for instance, I got here in Evanston, if when I was coaching softball, if the boys got something on the baseball field, we got something on a softball field. And I try to make that equal. It's like, let's make this an even plane. And working with athletic directors, actually at this school, they're really good. Some schools, you could just see the discrepancies. You're like, really? Like, these uniforms are tattered? Or, like, when I was in high school, we shared all our uniforms. And I think even here at Evanston, too, in the early 70s, like, the volleyball players had the same basketball uniforms, had the same softball uniforms, had the same track uniforms. They all shared the same thing, where the guys had different uniforms for different sports. So I would like it to be, but if you watch TV and media, it's always boys' sports day. So when we have women's sports days, all the guys are like, it's your boys' sports day every day. Just watch the sports news.
Right.
It's going to take women keep fighting the fight, and never taking, the second seat. So I'm always encouraging girls' sports as much as and big advocate as much as I can, and always giving back. So if you did sports, pass it along to someone else. Guys do that all the time. Girls have to learn how to do that as well. Help each other out. Don't push each other down and stuff like that. To have a strong voice. Don't let your voice not be heard. Are you going to get flack from it sometimes? Absolutely, but you're the stronger person. Go out there, go get that job that you think only men have. Like I like reffing. Like I said, that's my one job. I think that it's just so male dominated. But don't let that stop you. If you want to be, what's job that's mostly male, air traffic controllers, go out and be one. I know a female air traffic control person. I've met, I went down to NASA and saw, met female astronauts. How cool is that? Before, we'd be like, there's no way women would be up there. Absolutely there are now. So don't limit what you can do. If you do that, that's on yourself. But just keep going for it, no matter what. Because if you don't try, you're never going to know what you could do. As you're looking back at how history still, activates what goes on in our current lives. You can learn a lot about what happened. And, just think about, like, the women denied to do, like, marathons. Like the woman who had to kind of hide and pretend like she wasn't a woman, and then I realized who it was, and guys actually stopped her. Like, they pulled her off the marathon line. Seriously? Why stop? I mean, talk about discrimination right there. But she was trying to fight them off. They're like, no, you can't run, you're a woman. She's like, really? If I pass you up? Oh. So sorry.
According to National Women's Law Center, Lilly Ledbetter was one of the few female supervisors at the Goodyear plant in Gadsden, Alabama, and worked there for close to 20 years. She encountered sexual harassment at the plant and was told by her boss that he didn't think a woman should be working there. Her co-workers bragged about their overtime pay, even though Goodyear did not allow its employees to discuss their pay, and Miss Ledbetter was not aware she was subjected of discrimination until she received an anonymous note revealing the salaries of 3 of the male managers. After she filed a complaint with the EEOC, her case went to trial and the jury awarded her back pay and approximately $3.3 million in compensation and punitive damages for the extreme nature of the pay discrimination to which she had been subjected to. The Supreme Court upheld the 11th Circuit decision and ruled that employees cannot challenge ongoing pay discrimination if the employer's original discriminatory pay decision occurred more than 180 days earlier, even when the employee continues to receive paychecks that have been discriminatorily reduced. This decision upset long-standing precedent under Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and other important civil rights statutes. It also undermined the congressional goal of eliminating discrimination in the workplace. As a result, Congress and the administration acted quickly. Less than 2 years after the Ledbetter decision, during the first month of the 111th Congress, both the House and the Senate passed the Lilly Ledbetter Fair Pay Act of 2009, and the act as the first substantive piece of legislation signed by the president himself. The act restores long-standing law and helps to ensure that individuals subjected to unlawful pay discrimination are able to effectively assert their rights under the federal anti-discrimination laws. The Lilly Ledbetter Fair Pay Act of 2009 played as a catalyst in women reaching out and asserting their rights to be paid fairly among men in a workplace. The Lilly Ledbetter Act played a huge role in not only helping women in the workplace, but other discriminatory acts in the workplace, such as race, religion, anything else. The Lilly Ledbetter Fair Pay Act promoted voluntary compliance by employers. Now workplaces will ensure to eliminate any discriminatory practices because they'll continue to be on the hook for those discriminatory practices. This also eliminates employers to be able to hide discrimination. The Lilly Ledbetter Fair Pay Act allows employees to assess the validity of their claims. Employees will continue to have every incentive to challenge compensation discrimination claims as promptly as possible. Plaintiffs are still subjected to Title VII's 2-year limitation on back pay, and because employees bear the burden of proof in Title VII discrimination cases, they will disproportionately be affected by delayed legislation. Overall, the Lilly Ledbetter Act helped promote equal pay in the workplace for all genders, races, and religions.